So when you're doing an inside curve, there's certain things that you have to do to like inside the fabric to make it look really, really good. So this is an example that is done, okay? And this is, you can think of this as like a neckline or an armhole, and we're gonna just sew the inside part of it. But there's some things we have to do on the inside so that when we take it to the iron and press it, it looks really, really nice. So to start, you're going to take two of your opposite fabrics. I'm going to act as if this is like the fabric that would be showing on the shirt, so like the right side of the garment, and then I'm going to act like this is like my lining, or in your directions it's going to refer to it as a facing. A facing is another name for something that finishes the edges in your clothing, and it's kind of like a lining, but normally it's not like a full piece of the garment. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your fabric pretty side together. This red one doesn't have like a right or a wrong, but if yours is like this, make sure that it's going, like if this was the side you're using, it's pretty side to start. Okay, so I'm going to lay those like so. Okay, I've got my pattern piece there. And then this shows you, so you cut out 4 of them. 2 of them we're going to use for the outside curve, 2 we're going to use for the inside curve. Outside curve is your next skill. And it does show you on here where you'll actually sew for the inside curve. You're going to sew a 5/8 inch seam, and you're going to sew the inside curve and then just one of the straight edges, just like so. So first I'm going to pin it. Okay, so I'm only worried about my inside curve. So I'm making those edges match, pretty sides together, just like so. And then I would recommend getting a piece of tape to mark your 5/8 inch line when you're sewing. I'm just gonna follow my line on the machine. I'm gonna actually do this side. Okay. Then what you're going to do, so now we will be doing a back stitch because we want this stitch to stay in place. So I'm gonna line up my inside curve with my 5/8 inch marking right here. Again, I'd put a piece of tape there to help guide you. I'm just gonna closely watch my line. I'm gonna go a little bit past the presser foot. I'm gonna go ahead and take that pin out. Okay, I'm gonna start with a back stitch. Release, come forward. Now it is a curve, so I'm watching my 5/8 inch line. Remove your pins as you go, and I'm feeding that into the machine. Go nice and slow if you need to. So since it's a curve, you do have to use your hands a little bit more. Okay. Keep curving it. We're gonna pivot and go down one side. So as I get close, that looks like about 5/8. I'm gonna turn my hand wheel towards me, leave my needle into my fabric, lift up my presser foot and spin it. Make sure that edge is at 5/8. I was lucky and got a good guess. Lock it down. And then you will back stitch at the end. Lift up your presser foot, detach from your machine. So if you look closely, now I have white thread, but it's got your 5/8 inch seam all the way down. And so right now, if I took this and I tried to flip it pretty side out, all of that, actually you can see a little bit better on this side, right? That's basically what you're gonna be sewing. So right now, if I flip this and I went to go press it, there's no way it's going to be as smooth as this, because the bulk of this seam allowance is going to not allow it to lay flat. So if I try to sew it, or if I try to iron it or press it, it's gonna be really bulky and thick on the inside, and it's not gonna have that really nice curved shape that we're looking for. So what you're going to be doing, and it shows you on the back side of your direction sheet, you're gonna be trimming and clipping. Okay, so you'll take your scissors and you're gonna trim your seam allowance, just like so. And I'll do this and then I'll show you. Making sure you do not cut through your seam, because then you would have a hole, which would not be good. And I'm going to show you how to cut the corners too, because you really want the corners to come out to a nice fine point. So you want to get close. I'm going to kind of go like there. And it shows you right there as well on your sheet. But this will, if you have too much fabric there, it's not going to turn out nicely when you flip it. And then the last thing you'll do after you trim it, trim your seam allowance, you're gonna clip, being careful that you don't cut through your seam. You know, some of these scissors aren't like the greatest, so just be careful to not cut through your seam. If you cut through your seam, you're gonna have a hole, and that would be bad. So just using the very tip of your scissors. And what this does is it gives your seam some flexibility, so that when you flip this right side out and you iron it, it's gonna, that curve is really gonna keep its shape nicely. And then you'll take this over to the iron. You want to make sure you can really poke that corner out. Like there's no way I would have been able to do that before. And then we're going to take this to the iron. Because you have to use the heat to kind of really keep it under, because it's going to try to resist.
You have a pin stuck to your wall.
That happens all the time. It's my dog. And then we will press this at the iron. And using that heat, we'll keep this facing, or our lining, to the inside of the curve. I'll shoot a separate video of us ironing it really quick. But as you can see, those little steps like trimming your seam allowance and clipping is going to really change the overall appearance on your garment and make it look much better.